There we go. All right. We have music. We're back here. And um it is time to finish up our basic rules review. As we've been going through things, now this was a link that was shared by Demon Quiller that can help you if you want to build some maps that are thematically compatible here with Alien RPG, really get into it, then this is a fun way for you to be able to do so. So thank you for that. And so where are we now? Where do we find ourselves after everything that we've discussed tonight? Hey, Rip Artist, good to see you. Rip Artist, when you get a chance, I need that list of minis, or at least a theme you're trying to pursue, so we can get that stuff packed up and put in a box for you. So let me know when you got an idea, and I'll be happy to work with you on it. Oh, I'm not. I don't want your head to roll. I mean, obviously feel better, but when you get a chance, I just hadn't heard from you, and that seems to be why. But I ain't sore at you, Rip Artist. Don't worry. Just I saw you, and I wanted to get it out of my brain because I'm like, all right, the next time I see Rip, I gotta say that because otherwise I'll forget. So, all right. So what did we talk about? We have talked about the basics, right? Making your dice pool, adjusting it. We've talked about pushing. We've talked about using your skills and how you can perform stunts with your extra activities. We've gotten into combat. And while we've talked about the basics, there's more that you can read about. I don't want to read the book verbatim. This is, for educational purposes and discussion purposes and everything. I do want you to get the book. I do want you to support your friendly local game store. I do want you to support Free League Publishing because they make some really good games. And I hope that by sitting down together, because there's 44 of us right now. I hope that by sitting down together and just taking a little bit of time, even sitting back and letting me narrate so that you can absorb the information, you've gotten enough of a gist where you go, you know what? I can work with this. I get it. I can see how the gears are fitting together and how things are supposed to look. And you can make those adjustments on the fly as a player or as the game mother, the GM. So for tonight, I want to finish off with, we've talked about stress. We've built up stress by pushing, by, we might have a panic and what happens in a panic, all kinds of stuff. This is, and I said in the other two parts, by the way, hi from the past, if you're watching in the future on YouTube. If for some reason you're watching this a long ways in the future, where this is a grim corporate reality, well, don't say we didn't warn you way back in 2023. But yeah, let's talk about this because this is the spice. This is one of the reasons why we want to play this system, because it is kind of a dice, a push your luck style of play. The gimmick, the mechanic. And I don't mean gimmick in a cheap way. It doesn't cheapen the experience. This makes you ask, is the juice worth the squeeze? So, stress and panic. The mounting tension in your character is measured by their stress level. It usually starts at 0 and increases during the course of the game. Your stress level increases by 1 whenever one of the following happens. Now, you as a player, do you have to memorize this? No. I mean, if you do, could it have an effect on how you play? Possibly. Though this is more of a note for the GM, and I want to stress the art that is used. Considering we're looking at both pages as you open up the book, if you go, oh yeah, stress. I know the rules all kind of have their own it's compartmentalized. What's the image? What's the picture that goes with stress? And is this stress and panic right here? I'd say so. So rely on the imagery for a visceral absorption of the rules and for quick reference if you need it. So what makes your stress level increase? You push a skill roll. Since the beginning of the book, boom. That's the bread and butter way of doing it. You gotta succeed and you push yourself a little harder to do so. What next? You fire a burst of full auto fire. And would you look at that? See page 96. Nice reference. This is convenience. And they've already talked about it? Got it. Yep. Push in a roll and push a skill roll. You fire a burst on full auto. You suffer 1 or more points of damage. So every time you suffer damage, your stress goes up. Which can be especially deadly if it's a bunch of little chip damage. You know, you and your opponent are bare knuckle brawling in the bar, and every time you take that knock, it's raising your stress up. Something bad can happen. Something's going on. I don't want to get hit. You go without sleep, food, or water. So your resources are running out, and you're depleting. You're becoming fatigued. That can raise your stress as well. You perform a coup de grace, which we talked about as well. You know, taking another person's life. A scientist in your team fails to use the analysis talent. And you might go, wait, why is that so specific? A scientist in your team fails to use the analysis talent. Can any of you out there, I mean, I'll tell you if none of you know, why is that specific instance something that would increase the stress of a character? Yep, an Iron Chef, I will say having a little bit of stress in this game is actually a good thing. A little bit. It hones you. It makes you a little sharper. I don't know, can any of you think of a reason a scientist, like that is a role, that is a career, that is like a character class. A scientist in your team fails to use the analysis talent. Now think about the context of this game, the thematics of the game. Yes, Noctis and Australis. In a horror movie, when you need information desperately to live, and you have that scene, you know, doctor, what's going on? Beep boop bop bop beep. I don't know. This is here because if your talent fails and everyone was relying on you to try and give them some hope, some sanity, some information, and you don't do it, everyone suffers. It's demoralizing. It causes fear because our fear is brought about by an ignorance of things. We want to know. Fire, intelligence and reasoning, that's the fire that burns away the darkness. Yeah, and what does that mean? I have no idea. A member of your own crew attacks you. Just attacks, not damage. And if you do take damage, that's more stress. So if someone on your team, because of a rivalry, because they snap, that can increase stress as well. You're supposed to be safe with these people trying to get out of here. A person nearby is revealed to be an android. In Alien, it's the incinerator unit that burns away the darkness, says Australis. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the Alien franchise, that might be a little bit more explanatory about why this other specific instance could increase stress. And you encounter certain creatures or locations as determined by the scenario or the GM. So that's the catch-all. That's the freebie that the GM can impose. Everything's fine. Walking through your space station, you want to go visit your best friend. Because look, it gets a little lonely in space, and you two have a mutual accord to, play video games together. Yeah, that's what those noises are. You're playing video games together. I think Japanese video games, specifically. And you go to open the door, and you're like, oh, I'm going to have fun playing video games with my friend. And your friend's quarters are strewn with blood. There's an arm over there. And the vent's hanging open with a mysterious liquid dripping down. That's when I, as your game mother, as your GM, am going to just say straight out, you're going to take 2 stress for this. And now the scene begins with you already having 2 stress. Because all the synths are on the payroll and none of them can be trusted, they're programmed to be the ultimate corpos. Fun fact, I actually wrote some of the narration for the AVP board game. Oh, very cool. I did not know that single step. Oh, it's just Gert. Yeah, well, I just said it was a Japanese video game, Awkward Mancer, so there we go. Gaining stress dice. Whenever you make a skill roll, you must add a number of stress dice equal to your current stress level to your roll. Your stress makes you more focused, increasing your chance to succeed. Yay! There's a flip side to this, though. If you roll 1 or more failures, 1s on the stress die, face huggers if you have the custom dice, on your stress dice, you must make a panic roll. Boo. You remember the critical hit? And all sorts of fun stuff can happen. I'd ask one of you to roll dice in here, but Stream Elements is broken, and so we can't do that. But yeah. Panic roll. As long as you keep your stress in check, you can use it to your advantage. But if the tension grows too strong, it can explode, sending you into a wild panic. You need to make a panic roll when any of the following happens. You roll 1 or more failures on your stress dice in a skill roll. If this happens, you can't push the skill roll. Instead, roll for panic. You witness a friendly character suffering from a certain panic effect. You are pinned down by a ranged attack. If you remember, that was one of the options that you could invoke to try and get other people to panic or flee or, break. You suffer a critical injury. You're attacked by a strange alien creature that you've never seen before, What? An alien RPG? What are the odds? A truly horrifying event occurs as determined by scenario or the GM. Now, in that case, maybe in the past case I should have just called for a panic check. And or I could also increase your stress. Doesn't mean that one precludes the other. But if something especially gnarly happens, that might just nope, I'm clenched up. I clenched up so hard I think I tore a hole in the back of my spacesuit. I hope there's not a breach of atmosphere. Because right now there's a breach in my britches. So, resolution. Roll a d6 and add your current stress level and check the table to the right. Panic actions. If you roll a 10 or higher on your panic roll, you will be forced to perform a specific action. If the panic roll was the result of a skill check for an action, the action is canceled and immediately replaced by the forced panic action, even if you rolled success. Yeah, so that's a very odd but also traumatic experience. I wonder why you brought that up, Australis. What if you're attacked by a perfectly normal alien creature? Yeah, so like a cat from, whatever planet. It's a cat. It's not an Earth cat, but whatever. It evolved very similarly, and you're like, yeah, an alien creature. I've never seen it before, but would I be panicked by a Plutonian cat or something? I don't know. A furling. So, you panic. A d6 plus your stress level. More panic. If you are suffering from a panic effect, which is a 7+ on the roll, and are forced to make another panic roll, the new panic effect replaces the previous one. Pardon. If the new roll is lower than the previous effect, however, it is automatically adjusted to one step more severe than the previous effect. Overkill. The Overkill talent lets you replace the effect of a panic roll result of 11 or higher by the Overkill effect, if you have any enemies in sight. When triggering Overkill, you must immediately attack your enemies. You won't... Uh-oh. Let's break it down real quick, everyone. Thank you to Voivode Kohotech. How was your D&D game? It was another arena night, wasn't it? I guess speaking of overkill and throbbing hearts in the heat of the moment as combat stirs between all enemies engaged. A little one. Australia says you can play as the cat in Alien Heart of Darkness cinematic. So you can overkill. When triggering overkill, you won't stop until all your enemies in sight are broken. Also, all other PCs in short range of you must make an immediate panic roll. So, you are kind of okay. You're seeing red. And it's kind of like a rage, a barbarian rage. But at least you get to ignore the other kind of bad stuff personally. Oh, hey, the Discord command works. Some effects on the panic roll table are immediate or last one round. Others remain in effect until one of the following happens. Another character comes to your aid and makes a command roll. This counts as a slow action in combat. You are broken, or one turn passes. A turn, remember, is 5 to 10 minutes. You know, whatever you all agree upon in there, or what your GM tells you. Good game, says Voivode. One of my arena masters got killed. Some Fomorians made a mess of the players, but were slain in the end. Oh, did you end up losing a character in this, or it was close? The characters were on the ropes, but they managed to rally. Relieving stress. For every full turn, 5 to 10 minutes spent resting in a safe area that is secured from enemies, as far as you know, your stress level is reduced by 1 point. You cannot make any skill rolls when resting, and if your rest is interrupted, it doesn't count. A panic roll can also decrease stress, as can certain drugs. Once per act in cinematic play, and once per game session in campaign play, you can interact with your signature item in some way to reduce your stress level 1 step. This typically requires a slow action. Some conditions, such as starving or freezing, can block your ability to relieve stress. Oh, take care, Tony. Thank you for hanging out as long as you did. They survived. Well, there's always the next fight, Voivode. If you all want, go give Voivode a look. He runs some cool arena combat for D&D. Very clever stuff, and it's a lot of fun. Permanent Mental Trauma. Sounds like a band name, doesn't it? Oh, did you hear that new album from Permanent Mental Trauma is dropping? If you have rolled a result of 13 or higher on a panic roll during a game session, you must make an empathy roll after the session. If any of you have played Vampire the Masquerade, think of it a bit like Humanity, where you get to tally up your sins and see if you lose your humanity in that game. Here, roll the attribute only, not using any skill. If the roll succeeds, you develop a permanent mental trauma of some kind. Roll a d6 and consult the table on 101. And that was a little bit up and before here. Are you going to come up and finally say hi to everyone? No? You just want to nuzzle my foot? You don't even have your Raichi ball. Where'd it go? Oh, I said the word and he meowed. Come on. I want to show you off. Come on. Alright, whatever. He's just rubbing on my chair now. So you can see, if you have a little bit of stress going, it's not terrible. If you're operating on 2 stress, you can roll that d6, and on a 4 or lower, you're keeping it together. You manage to keep your nerves in check barely. Cool. You're getting some extra dice to your dice pool. Nothing too bad, right? You're not panicking yet. I mean, it's a panic roll. Now, what happens if you do have 1 stress and you are unfortunate enough to get that 6? And you get a 7 on the panic roll. You get a nervous twitch. Your stress level and the stress level of all friendly PCs in short range of you increases by 1. Uh-oh, Pesquetios. You're starting to doubt yourself, and it's dragging on the morale of everyone else. But you didn't throw open the airlock. You didn't murder your captain. You didn't start a cult of alien worship. That's cool. All right. I can live with a nervous twitch. You know, I'll pull out my, look at this photograph. And when you do, in that session, you calm down a bit. You're getting back under control. You're good. But now, hi, Kroll, good to see you. But now, Awkward Mancer, I would like you to roll 2d6 in chat. The first number is how much stress you have, and the second number is what we're adding to that. We're going to simulate a panic roll. Exclamation point 2d6. Let's see if the commands are working. Oh, 6 and a 3. All right. Well, Awkward Mancer, I don't know what was going on. Something happened, and I need a panic roll from you. You have 6 stress, and you got a 3 on your panic die. That's 9. At least, unless new math tells us otherwise. What happens to you? Let's check it out. Drop item. Whether by stress, confusion, or the realization that you're all going to die anyway, you drop a weapon or other important item. The GM decides which one. Your stress level increases by 1. So now, Awkward Mancer, you are posting guard at the door while everyone else is trying to sleep. And you heard something that you shouldn't have heard. Your rifle clatters to the ground. Your stress level is now 7. Someone on your team wakes up as they see you, your rifle's dropped and you're just kind of shaking there. And this person was trying to calm down, but unfortunately, let's say, got that nervous twitch. And so you hear behind you, what is it? Because they're sensing that you're nervous, they're nervous, they twitch, which affects you. Because your stress level and the stress level of all friendly PCs in short range increases by 1. Your stress is now at 8. You can see how quickly this can stack up, by the way. We haven't necessarily ended a turn. Awkward Mancer, that small sound has now revealed a very large creature galloping down a hallway, and you don't have your rifle. It screams, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. And I need you, Awkward Mancer, to roll 1d6 in chat for your panic die, because we know that you're sitting at 8 stress. 8 stress. Plus 2 is 10. Awkward Mancer, freeze. You're frozen by fear or stress for 1 round, losing your next slow action. Your stress level and the stress level of all friendly PCs in short range increases by 1. The creature is charging down the hall at you. You freeze, or even scream. The person behind you who woke up screams as well. And I'll be generous. I'm going to give them another nervous twitch. Unfortunately, that's going to make your stress go up even further, especially because this thing is now effectively going to engage in claw to face combat with you. Now, for the sake of one more example of how quickly things can ratchet up in the effects, I want you to roll 1d6 one more time, Awkward Mancer. And we're going to say that you have, on this example, you are up to 12 stress. All right. So as things are going back and forth, you froze. You're trying to get this thing away from you. Everyone's waking up and screaming. The stress just spikes. You were already at 12. I call for a panic roll because something happened, and you get a 3. 12 plus 3 is 15, and what happens? On a 15 plus, catatonic. You collapse to the floor and can't talk or move, staring blankly into oblivion. And I will describe how the creature drags you away, still alive, down the hallway. And I have to wonder if the other people playing with you are actually relieved that it wasn't them and that they actually have been given a chance to get out of there. You'll make it out of whatever, right? It didn't kill you. It could have. It just knocked you down and drug you off as you stared catatonically up at the ceiling of the hallway. If it wanted you dead, it would have killed you. You got a chance to escape, right, Awkward Mancer? Go take a nap somewhere. You'll feel better when you wake up. Because, man, when you wake up, all that stress is gone. That is going to be a big weight off your chest. Other hazards. The world of Alien is unforgiving, and there are many ways for your character to suffer and die. Teehee. In the game, there are 4 so-called conditions: starving, dehydrated, exhausted, and freezing. These can cause damage and block recovery. Mark conditions in the relevant checkboxes on your character sheet. Starving. After a day without sufficient food, you become starving. Being starving has several effects. You cannot recover health or relieve stress. Every day, you need to make a stamina roll. If you fail, you suffer 1 point of damage and your stress level increases 1 step. If you're broken while starving, you need to make a death roll every day. Medical aid has no effect against these death rolls. You can only be saved by ingesting some form of sustenance. As soon as you have eaten, the above effects wear off within 1 shift. Dehydrated. After a day without sufficient water, you become dehydrated. Being dehydrated has several effects. You cannot recover health or relieve stress. Every shift, you suffer 1 point of damage, and your stress level increases 1 step. So it's kind of similar. As soon as you drink, it wears off. Exhausted. You need to sleep for at least 1 shift each day. After 1 day without sufficient sleep, you become exhausted. Other things. Vacuum. Ah, the vacuum of space. Yeah, Awkward Mancer, what I presented was an accelerated circumstance that didn't take into account strategy or a lot of things. So I don't want you all to think that, oh, that's the end. As soon as one person goes off, everyone goes off, and it's a bad end. I wanted to give an example of... it's an extreme example, but it is an example of how people freaking out can raise the stress of other people, and if that happens and they fail on a stress dice roll and we get into panic, how everyone can just start breaking down. So it wouldn't be as willy-nilly. Yep, they do. They do. But for the sake of example and a little bit of laughter and everything, I gave an accelerated example of, let's just kind of hand wave some stuff and see what happens as stress levels go up. So thank you for being my my test dummy, Awkward Mancer. No, it's not. Depending on the decisions that are made and the things that happen. And it is a note for the GM to not make it willy-nilly. Or if I do something like impose a panic roll and or stress on you because you discovered someone exploded in their room, and then you go and you check next door because you're like, maybe they heard something, what happened? And they're exploded in their room too? Could I increase the stress or call for a panic roll? Perhaps. Would I? You're already exposed to the gore, and the shock of things have uh the shock of things has taken its biggest toll. You know what's the unfortunate quote? You know, one person's death is a tragedy. You know, 1,000 people's death is a statistic. So as a GM, you do need to have a measure of, you know, how far down the hallway can this person look for help and open the door, scream, stress, panic. Open the next door, scream, stress, panic. Open the third door. Maybe the next person. Open the door. They're exploded. Space is a cold and unforgiving place. Without the protection of a spacesuit or the hull of a ship, you won't last long in the black void. If your ship suffers explosive decompression, below, specifically, or if you are thrown out of an airlock, your life is in extreme danger. The absence of pressure creates gas bubbles in your blood, causing your whole body to swell up. This results in crippling pain, all while raw UV radiation from the nearest star sears your skin. You can't hold your breath. If you do, your lungs collapse. After that, you are just moments away from death. You must make a stamina roll every round without protection in a vacuum. The test doesn't require an action, but you must roll it before doing anything else in the round. The roll is unmodified for the first round, but you get a -1 for the second, and the third round you get a -2, and so on. A failed roll means you drop directly to 0 health and must make a death roll every round until you die or you enter a pressurized area. You don't suffer critical injury. Now, is this realistic? Maybe not, but this is also dramatic. Our games are movies. Can you make that hard decision to kind of hold your breath and to, you know, jump kind of Dead Space style from one part of the ship to the next, and hopefully you land in the next pressurized chamber and seal it in time while you're making these rolls? Or to give your teammates a chance to, you know, they're in their suit, and they jump out and they got to try and drag you back. So we can afford, for the sake of a dramatic story and, you know, cool moments like that, you know, that you're not a popsicle, an exploded popsicle right out the airlock. Before going unconscious, you should put all your efforts towards getting a spacesuit on. If one can be found nearby, climbing into a spacesuit quickly, a single slow action requires a successful mobility roll. Explosive decompression. Firing guns inside a spacecraft is very dangerous. If a shot misses its target in a room next to an outer bulkhead, the weapon will inflict its base damage rating on the bulkhead instead. Roll for the armor rating of the bulkhead. A typical civilian ship has an armor rating 6. If the armor roll fails to stop the shot, it will penetrate the bulkhead, which means bad news for everyone. The air in the room will vent out into space in a turn, and the intense draft will require everyone to make a stamina roll to perform any action. The stamina roll itself counts as a fast action. Most ships will automatically seal off a breached compartment once the air is gone. Everyone still in the vented compartment will suffer the effects of vacuum. Freezing. In an environment without enough clothes or shelter, you become freezing. Being freezing has several effects. You cannot recover health, etc. Must make stamina rolls. As soon as you get warm, you stop rolling for stamina. I know I skipped over that. There's a lot that's shared with the other lingering health effects. Yeah, there you go. Forget about the beta rays and all the other cosmic radiation Noctis. You know, you can't get a sunburn if you're too cold, like if you're too cool for that. What? Falling damage in a role-playing game? Let's find out how it works here. Falling on a hard surface automatically inflicts an amount of damage to you equal to the height of the fall in meters divided by 2. Rounding all fractions down. In a controlled jump, roll mobility. Each success reduces the damage done by 1. Armor can also protect you from falling damage. Explosions? Oh, does this art look familiar, everyone? Kind of... One... Other way. Yeah, whatever. It's... there we go. Bip, 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 bip. The force of an explosion is measured in blast power. For each person within short range of the blast when the detonation occurs, roll a number of base dice equal to the blast power. For every success rolled, the victim suffers 1 point of damage. The roll cannot be pushed. Victims at engaged range from the detonation suffer 1 extra point of damage. Effect radius. Powerful charges with a blast power of 7 or more can harm people even at medium range. The blast power is then reduced by 6. If there are many people within medium range of the blast, the GM can simplify the process by rolling once and applying the result to all victims. Fire. A fire is measured in intensity. A typical fire has an intensity 8. When exposed to fire, roll a number of base dice equal to the intensity. For every success rolled, you suffer 1 point of damage. Armor can protect you. If you take damage, you catch fire and continue to burn and suffer another attack at the start of each new round. The intensity increases by 1 each round. As soon as a fire attack inflicts no damage, the fire goes out by itself. You or a friend at engaged range can put out the fire with a successful mobility roll. Slow action. If you are broken by fire damage or suffer fire damage when already broken, you must make a death roll every round until you die or are saved by a medical aid roll. Disease. What disease? In an alien game? Come on. When exposed to a dangerous contagion or infection, I don't know if any of you are alien fans. Why might I mean? There's obvious, like, oh yeah, you're living on a space station with people. You'll get a cold. Okay, we get it, right? People are going in and out all the time. What might be an alien specific reason for disease mechanics? When exposed to a dangerous contagion or infection, you need to roll an opposed roll for stamina against the virulence rating of the disease. This is called a sickness roll. A typical disease has the virulence of 3, but there are diseases with much higher ratings. If you fail the roll, you fall sick, which has several effects. As listed, I'm not going to go over each in detail. You can read this in your own book that you've acquired from your friendly local game store. And if you need one, I know a guy who can hook you up with a book. Let me know. And if it's not me, support a small local business next to you. Go to your friendly local game store. Talk to them about it. If you've been watching this, you've been learning how to play, you're equipped to run a game. And you got a community here that will absolutely help you get a game going too. If someone cares for you while you're sick, this person can roll your sickness rolls instead of you. The healer rolls for medical aid against virulence of the disease. Other diseases. The sickness effects described above reflect common but deadly disease. There are many other diseases that can have unique effects. Yeah, Australia, so you got it. Spores, yeah, spores. For the beta, I was thinking of Beta Ray Bill, so that's why I brought that one up. And speaking of radiation, here, there's weak, strong, extreme. More on this type of damage and the things that happen. Again, you can read about it. You can read about drowning and suffocation. Because look, these stories can take place in all kinds of environments. And so you got to have a general way to approach it and to be able to make calls on the fly, even. Remember, each of these is labeled and it's in its own section for easier reference. Synthetics, because there are synthetic people. There are they have their own rules, which is also why people get stressed out if they find out someone they didn't know is a synthetic is. Electric sheep. It is illegal. And of course, we all know if there's a law about it, people won't do it. It's that easy. I wish we made more things illegal because that's how it works. It is illegal to program an android for violence against humans. While modern synthetics are governed by behavioral inhibitors that prevent them from injuring others, earlier models are not so equipped and are therefore dangerous. Expensive bypass packages are available on the black market for those who want to circumvent these laws. An android that goes too long without scheduled maintenance can also begin to experience mental degradation and the onset of psychosis, which will render the inhibitors moot. Yep, so we're almost toward the end here because gear, this is all stat blocks. These are the variables you'll plug into the equations that we've already talked about. If you know the algebra, if you know how to manipulate the numbers, you can plop whatever numbers in there you want and play with them to get your dice pools and all that other, consideration for range and all that. So, synthetics, xenomorphs in an alien game? You've heard the stories about the monsters out there. You better hope that you won't need to face one yourself. Fighting xenomorph beings is something different entirely and far more deadly than facing humans or even androids. Very few have lived to tell the tale. A range of xenomorphs are described in detail in Chapter 11. In combat, xenomorphs follow special rules. More information for the GM is found on 290. You don't want to spoil stuff for yourself, right? Don't be that guy and you learn the monster's stat block. Or if you've already looked ahead, don't be that guy and metagame. Okay, everyone? Okay. Multiple actions. Some xenomorphs get to act twice or even 3 times in a round. For such creatures, the GM draws a number of initiative cards equal to their speed rating. At the time of each initiative, the xenomorph gets to perform 1 fast and 1 slow action. Signature attacks. Most xenomorphs attack only in close combat, at engaged range. Each time a xenomorph attacks, the GM rolls a d6, consults a table for the creature's signature attacks, and resolves the effects. Some signature attacks are extremely deadly. When a xenomorph is reduced to 0 health, it isn't broken in a way a human is. Instead, the GM rolls a d6 on a special critical injury table on 291. Armor rating. Most xenomorphs have a thick hide resistant to attacks, giving them a natural armor rating. And special abilities. Some xenomorphs have special actions beyond the signature attacks, and this is specified. Vehicle combat. I think it's its own section as well. There's a ton of vehicles, more variables for you to plug into the equations. If you geek out over sci-fi or alien stuff in general, beautiful illustrations, stuff that should be accurate to what you've seen in the films and the comics and video games and such. I'm not going to go over every gun. I'm not going to put them on a ranking chart. I mean, that could be fun at some point, but you're going to get the idea. I believe in you at this point. If you know how to make your dice pool and throw the dice, you figured out the game. At least the mechanics of the game. So there is a wide range of vehicles, and there are some special rules. Passengers, maneuverability, speed, how much damage it can take before becoming wrecked, because you can You know, you can drive an armored APC. That's redundant. It's like saying ATM machine, an armored APC. So pardon me for that. You could have ship-to-ship combat, because there is not just aliens in Alien RPG. There's human-to-human combat, interfactional, someone who's snapped. There's artificial intelligence that could take over a vehicle and try and run you down for whatever reason, right? So there are vehicle rules. You want to get out of there. Maybe you're gunning it in a gunship to get out of the caverns below the planet's crust before it explodes. You know, somewhat like the Super Metroid end or whatever. There you go. So there's rules for ramming, vehicle weapons, damage to vehicles, component damage. I don't want you to get lost in the details. Now, these are still written clearly, and you could always go back and reference it. But if you're just starting a game of Alien RPG, should you be expected as a player, or even as a GM, a game mother, to memorize the aerial vehicle's altitude and crash table? No, that is not reasonable. Understand that it is there, yes. Don't feel like you have to memorize it. Don't let this block of text, do not let this prevent you from getting a new RPG with beautiful art, can help you tell amazing stories, and have fun on a weekly basis with a group of friends or family. I mean, number one, these are not complex rules. And number two, yes, while they're here, you are not expected to memorize it. That's what the book is for. That's why you have it. You go back and you memorize it when you need it. Now, in the heat of the moment, I'm running. You see, look, I'm running. I'm running. I gotta get out of here. And how do I determine my altitude? Hang on a second. Roll. You know, could it be that? Yeah, but you know what? This isn't a professional production. This is not, you're not the editor of a movie who has to actually put these split-second things there. You can take a breather. You can reference the rules. If you've been, yeah, cool, awesome, all the way through this, and now your eyes are starting to kind of go, no more rules, no more. Don't worry about it. Come back to it when you need it. Or, if you're the pilot, then you, of everyone in the group, you bookmark this. And you know that if you need it, it's here. And do you have to memorize it? No. Yeah, I missed the whole bit about, like, you're running down the hallway, you gotta get to the chopper, do it now! And then you get in and you start rising up, and you gotta, how is that measured and everything. I got so excited that I skipped out even the whole Arnold trope, so pardon me, awkward answer. I'm waiting for Free League to add the Spitter Xenomorphs from Alien Fireteam. Well, we'll see what comes out in future books. But if we go all the way back, and even for as nicely presented with the art supporting the rules and everything, if you get lost or you feel stuck, oh, do you see this table of contents? Do you see how lovely? Oh, look how lovely this table of contents is. Specific topics with the pages right here up front with matching art. that you will remember for the segment. I wish this kind of consistency. And if you all go, yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, I don't know why, like I don't know Free League Press anything. I mean, besides we are mutual acquaintance in a hobby sphere. I get if you're like, this feels padded. Like, look, there's 2 rules on 2 pages, and most of it is art. How padded is this book? Come on, right? Is this helping you set the tone, the scene, to get inspiration, to remember where things are, or just appreciate that this company has enough care that they put into this book to be able to do this, to fill it with beauty and not just a list of rules? Or to be like some fantasy appendix, and it's like, oh, the rules for combat, and it's just words over 2 pages, and maybe right here is a picture of a dagger. Got it. I don't know. To me, I like these touches. You're getting something that has form and function. If you go, you know what? I really need to look up vehicle combat. Boom. There it is. Super clear, super plain. I very much appreciate it, Awkward. I mean, because not only was this, these were commissions to artists. That this is promoting more art and more artists, and and doing that. It adds to the mood, and it's also creating a lot of psychological gateways for us to better memorize where things go. In addition to the function of it, it's very well. It is very well played. Like written through, played through. And it's good to reference, especially if you're on the fly and you want to try and create tense situations. There's enough flexibility where maybe you get something wrong, but you can still make up for it. There's a lot of tension and ways to ease the tension, but ultimately things are not super crunchy to a very to the minutia. And especially if you're a player, this would also be a good beginner-friendly game to get into, because character creation, as I hope you'll see next week, it's not very onerous, and you can still do a lot with the rules that are provided, especially because there is this leaning into of your imagination, of an ongoing negotiation at the table between you and your game mother. So I hope this made sense to you all. And you know what? We spent a couple hours in one night, and we read through the rules of the game. This is it. Now, of course, like anything, there's going to be weird situations of, well, I'm hiding behind this. Can I actually see from my zone into the other one down the hallway? You will negotiate that at the table. And especially if everyone's starting out, if you are playing with a group of everyone's new, everyone's going to have to look everything up. Or if you're playing with a group of experienced people, I would hope, because we were all new to this hobby at some point in time, I would hope that the experienced players would use their experience to help teach you more quickly on the fly and be patient with you. I want this to be very empowering to you all. I want this to spark your imagination and to get you interested. Yes, specifically in Alien RPG, please. Pick up the book. If you can support your friendly local game store, please do so. I will absolutely shill for your local game store, let alone myself. But moments like this, time like this, look, we have 40 people watching a tutorial, in a sense, on Alien RPG. And I hope that this has been educational. I hope that this has shown you, you know what, I can work with this system. This has given me ideas. And even, if you go, I'm going to take this, yoink, and put it into a D&D game, cool! Because I hope that thing that you learned is going to make some awesome memories for you and your friends or family at that table, virtual or otherwise. But at least you're here with other people who also want to learn or who have spoken about their experiences with the game and shared their knowledge and resources. Because this is exactly what happens in FLGSs. And that's always what I want to be able to present to you all. That inspiration, a sneak peek at something, a spark to get you going. You know, sometimes you need that pick-me-up. You need that challenge to, you know, I really want to play something, but you feel so beaten down. I can only ever find games of Pathfinder. I can only ever, you know, everyone in my local meta always wants to play GURPS. And I want to try something else. But I have to learn a new system. That almost seems like, you know, I'd rather stick with the devil I know. Because yes, I've played GURPS 100 times. And so what's 101 more? I guess it's better than learning a new system. Don't fall into that malaise. Do not fall into that trap. Please. If you ever need a helping hand to lift you out of that quicksand, there is myself and everyone in our community who's new or experienced at something. Let's get you out of that. If it's readable and searchable, yeah, the formatting makes a big difference, Awkward Mancer. Single Step says creation has to be a bit fast and easy because, well, motion tracker pings in the distance. very well said, Single. Awkward Mancer says, for players, it's trivial to start because most of the workload is on the GM. Yep, absolutely. Artemis, you rolled 2d6. And Artemis, let's find out. That's a 41 on a D66. Let's find out which critical injury you have suffered, Artemis. So we're going to come back here. We're going to go to critical injuries is on page 99. And Artemis Rose Moon has suffered a broken leg. It is not fatal. There is no time limit. You can't run. You can only crawl. And your healing time is 2d6 days, Artemis. So I guess congratulations on your broken leg.